Welcome to Breakdown. Today is October 23rd, 2023. JJ, football is getting for real now.
Yeah, it's getting into that spooky season.
It's getting for real. You want to talk a little football, SEC, Big Ten?
Well, we so rarely talk football, especially the SEC or the Big Ten. So why don't we mix it up and do a little football talk?
You know what? That sounds like a good idea. Let's start with last week's game.
Okay, last week's game.
Yeah, let's the Big Ten first.
Yeah, Big Ten.
Big Ten. One really big game.
Oh.
In the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Indiana.
Yeah.
They hosted Nebraska. That was Indiana was a 6.5 point favorite in that game. No, 6 point favorite in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And Nebraska.
I think they closed at a 6.5 point.
Okay.
Or it actually was moving to 7, but either way, it was a touchdown or less.
Okay. Nebraska. What happened in that game, man?
Man, they did not show up. They looked horrible. They got beat on the line of scrimmage.
They lost 56-7.
They lost 56-7. They got embarrassed, honestly.
They did. And on top of all of that, Indiana lost their quarterback in the second half of that game.
Yeah, he had to get thumb surgery. He'll be out for an extended period of time, but they are optimistic that he'll be coming back. But yeah, he went out and the backup came in, threw for almost 100 yards and a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah, Curtis Rourke, if I
transfer from Ohio, Canadian.
Yep. Yeah, he has a brother who played quarterback as well. But no, he was on a move. Indiana's undefeated, and he was leading them. And to get that injury like that, and now they have to bring in a freshman for the rest. They say that he may be out for the rest of the regular season.
Yeah.
So in order for him to play again, it's going to have to be a bowl game, or Indiana got to get into the college playoff.
I didn't realize it was that bad of a prognosis.
That's what I heard.
Okay.
These things do change, but that was what I had heard. The other Big Ten game, JJ, USC.
Mm-hmm. That was the game I thought you were talking about because that one was the least competitive.
28-29.
Yeah.
It was, but neither one of those schools have a name associated with this year's playoff potential. So to me, it wasn't a big game. But it was.
Yeah,
it
it's
was
funny
a good
that
game.
Indiana does, but I guess so.
It was a good game.
Yeah, USC has a name brand.
And USC lost, JJ.
Mm-hmm, they did lose.
If I told you what their record were, you would fall over. So I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you that they're only 3-4.
3-4, not even 500.
Wow. And they started the year
beating LSU. Gave LSU the
They did,
was.
And they were ranked 23rd in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And now they are in deep trouble.
They are. They're finding out it's a little tougher in the Big Ten than it was out there in the Pac-12. Although last year, I think they only won 7 games, so they weren't setting the world on fire in the Pac-12 either.
And they had Caleb Williams.
Yeah, they did.
Any other games in the Big Ten review, or anything you want to talk about? The 2 games we just mentioned, Nebraska. Is JJ? We'll talk about that later. But Nebraska, their hopes for winning the Big Ten, they've lost 2 conference games, so they're kind of fizzling out, right?
Yeah, they don't have any shot at making the Big Ten championship game.
Last year, JJ, Nebraska, right now they're 5-2.
They would be happy to make a bowl game. When's the last time they went to a bowl game?
Well, I'm just going to say, last year they were 5-3, had 4 games to go. All they needed to do was win 1 game to get bowl eligible. Guess what happened?
They didn't win any of them.
They lost 5 in a row. So now we'll move on. Let's go to the SEC.
And you know what? Could it happen again? They're definitely losing this week against Ohio State.
Well, they got UCLA,
who looks a little bit tougher, a little bit more competitive.
USC, Wisconsin, and Iowa.
Yeah. But UCLA did beat Rutgers last week. And, yeah. It was a depleted Rutgers roster. They didn't have their full strength near it.
Yeah. True, Nebraska could lose out, but I wouldn't expect it. They will be bowling. Let's talk the SEC.
Let's move down south.
Game left. Let's do 2 games. Let's do Alabama and Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Alabama went to Tennessee. Alabama's perennial SEC champs, basically, them in Georgia. It's their birthright to dominate the SEC. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to realize that was true under Nick Saban, but Nick Saban isn't walking through that door.
So their birthright is no longer a birthright.
Well, they need to worry about the game in front of them. I mean, not the game in front of them. They need to worry about a couple of games in front of them coming up.
Tennessee won last week's game 24-17.
Yeah, Nico did not look good another time, but
Tennessee has played 3 straight games, JJ, where they were shut out in the first half. I mean, not even a field goal.
And Josh Heupel's supposed to be the offensive mastermind.
I cannot imagine 3 straight games. I wonder how many teams in the country can make that claim, and especially the offense that Tennessee supposedly has.
Yeah, I mean, they're supposed to have like one of the most dynamic, high-powered offenses in the country. I definitely was drinking the Kool-Aid. I hopped aboard that train, and they have been very much disappointing on the offensive side of the ball. It's been the defense that's been carrying them.
Yet and still, how many losses do they have?
They only have one.
They only have one. So there's still hope.
Oh yeah, there's still hope for Tennessee.
One thing about
Alabama is a little different, but
yeah, Alabama, they had 15 penalties for 150 yards in that game. Can you imagine 15 penalties for 150 yards from an Alabama? I mean, that's to me, that's a lack of discipline or something.
Yeah, I mean, I can just imagine what that would do to Nick Saban's arteries if he was still the coach. Oh man, he would be steaming. So, yeah, I mean, Kellen DeBoer has a lot more of a laissez-faire approach.
Yes, he does.
As it comes to coaching, he's a lot more casual, and that is reflected with the discipline of Alabama. I don't remember Washington being particularly a team that was particularly penalized a lot last year. Mm-hmm. Do you?
I do not. I don't think they were.
So I'm not sure if this is like an isolated incident or a thing that's consistent and a thing that Alabama needs to worry about. But no matter how he goes about handling that, he's going to take a casual approach in the media. He's going to display that.
Okay.
He might be more fiery behind closed doors, but yeah.
Before we move on, JJ, with this game, Jalen Milroe. Mm-hmm. He was doing his thing early in the year against Georgia and everybody else. The last 2 games, he looked kind of like he's lost some confidence. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to speculate on injuries, but there are rumors that he's been hurt, and I don't know the dynamics of like what his injury might be, if he is injured, and how that might affect his throwing mechanics. But he did miss a lot of open receivers in the last game against Tennessee. But other than Ryan Williams, there wasn't one receiver that he could consistently rely on to get open at all times. But there were opportunities for him, and I'm not sure, he might be comfortable, delivering the ball with a specific footwork, and he definitely looked less explosive running the ball, so I think there's a lower body issue.
Okay.
But that might affect him throwing the ball as well. We don't know.
There's another thing about him that you mentioned it that I don't like. I don't like, and I'll just say it like that. He targeted Ryan Williams at least 15 times in that game Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, he's thrown, I think, 16 touchdown passes, and Ryan Williams has 9 of them.
I don't think, well, this is just me. I think they should spread the love around a little bit, but that's just me. That's just me. The other big game in the SEC last week, JJ, in Austin, Texas, it was a team that came in there. They called themselves the Bulldogs.
Yeah, they were an underdog to a non-Alabama school for, was it not the first time in the past
in
4 years?
4 years, to an SEC.
An SEC
school.
Yeah.
First time in 5 years. They were four.
But what non-SEC school would they have been?
I don't know. Were they an underdog in any of the playoff games?
No,
I don't know.
I don't think that they were.
Well, maybe none of them.
I think that was the only non-Alabama team to go in as a favorite was Texas.
Okay. They were a 4.5-point underdog, and they took it to the undefeated Texas Longhorns. How did they do it, JJ?
Well, they didn't do it with Carson Beck because he looked bad. He threw the ball horribly again.
He only threw 3 interceptions.
Just 3, okay.
That's right. He only threw 3 interceptions.
And his Heisman odds went up. I don't understand how that works, but, he looked bad. But, the thing about it is, Georgia doesn't really run the ball that great either.
But they got ETN.
They do have Trevor Etienne's little brother, Travis Etienne's little brother Trevor.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Yes.
That's
yes.
how that one goes.
I mean, he's a decent running back.
No, he is good, but I think it's more of like an offensive line issue, and none of the running backs behind him are anywhere near as dynamic. So
I would agree with that.
you can't put the entire weight of the running game on one person.
Okay, JJ, but you talk Georgia's running game. Texas, they attempted 27 rushes.
Yeah.
They got 29 yards. So
Yeah, we talked about it before the season started. They had a couple of guys go down. They had
that's true.
they're supposed to be the starter go
number
down.
one and number two.
And then the freshman. So like they had a depleted rushing attack for a while. They were talking about converting wide receivers to running back. So that was an issue, but they weren't generating an offense throwing the ball either because Quin Ewers got benched for Arch Manning.
JJ, should Texas be worried?
Yeah, they should be worried. Their offensive line got exposed. I thought that was one of the biggest issues. I mean, I think that's why they put in Arch Manning over Quin Ewers because Arch Manning at least has the ability to have a more dynamic run threat. I mean, he can get out of the pocket a little bit. He can move around a little bit. He can do a little bit more than Quin Ewers in that element. But their offensive line, I mean, Texas was prided on their offensive line. They were the first school to like have the NIL like advertising. We're paying this many $1,000s to offensive linemen. Come to Texas. We'll make sure that you're treated right. You're paid. And they did not look like that dynamic force that we
Wasn't their offensive line thought of one of the best in the country?
were supposed to be. So was Michigan's.
Okay.
I mean, there were a lot of teams that were supposed. I mean, Florida State was supposed to have the best defensive line in the country too, and
I think they won what 1 or 2 games.
one. They have won one. They're 1-6, so
that's
or 1-7.
You know, Texas. We we mentioned that Carson Beck threw the 3 interceptions. Texas lost 3 fumbles, so wasn't the most.
Clean game.
Yeah,
Played
clean
for
games.
you,
There's little penalties on that. But JJ, one question I want to ask you: the SEC has no team, 0 teams who are undefeated, compared to the Big Ten, who has 3 or 4.
Oregon, Indiana,
Penn State.
and is that it?
I think that's it.
Yeah, Ohio State isn't, and that's the thing. The best team in the conference is undefeated.
So let me ask you this question though: is the SEC down? No undefeated school.
Yeah, so I think the SEC is down. I think the SEC is down. I think the Big Ten is down too. I don't think it's as glaringly obvious as the SEC because the SEC had more dominance recently, and I think the Big Ten is stronger this year than they were last year, adding Oregon and 3 schools that
Washington, UCLA, and USC.
3 schools that are
In the West Coast.
4-3 at best. But Oregon is legit. So I do think that they're better. But I just think that the NIL and the transfer portal has shown you, like, look at Indiana. I think schools like Indiana, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. They did beat Ole Miss. I think NIL and the transfer portal has diluted the talent pool a little bit.
Okay. JJ, let's talk about this week's game.
Yeah.
Let's stay in the SEC.
Stay south.
I got 3 games I want to talk about. All 3 of these games are top 25 matchups.
Okay.
I want to go first with Mizzou and Alabama.
Missouri and Alabama.
Yeah, Missouri is going to Alabama. Alabama is a 13.5-point favorite, JJ. Alabama 5-2, Missouri 6-1. How do those points look to you? Missouri quarterback, I think he may be questionable. He actually left last week's game, went to the hospital, came back, and led them to a victory.
Led the game winning
Because
drive.
they were down before he came back.
Yeah.
So I don't know what his stat is for this coming week, but
Well, I
assuming
do
he
know that
plays-
their leading rusher, running back Nate Noel, is out.
Okay,
Okay. But assuming that Brady Cook plays.
correct.
Okay.
Do those 13 points look excessive, or did Vegas get it right?
I saw -14, which was a little bit, 2 touchdowns is a little bit high, I thought, for a team that also has a quarterback that we don't know about their status. I mean, Jalen Milroe, we just talked about how he might look like he's been hurt. It's at Alabama. I do think if Alabama is going to prove that to be a contender, they're going to have to beat Missouri by a couple of touchdowns today, or by this next game. I think that they're gonna have to do that. So I would take Alabama to win the game and to cover that 14 points.
I wonder if Alabama is a legitimate contender.
Yeah, I mean Mizzou without their leading running back out with Luther Burton looking horrible last week, fumbling the ball, and without their quarterback, I just think Mizzou has too many question marks. I don't think they're the team that we thought they were either coming into the season. But
I would take those. I would take Missouri in 13 and a half points.
I definitely think Alabama has looked like a mediocre team this year.
Yeah.
Ever since the Georgia game.
JJ, a team that people probably don't think much of, but it's a top 25 team. A game matching two top 25 teams. Texas at Vandy.
Yeah, Vandy is rarely in a top 25 matchup, but they're having that type of season, and the rest of the country is also having a type of season where Vandy is allowed to be in the top 25.
It's a home game for Vandy.
19-point underdog.
The 19 point. You're right. The last time Vandy was a big underdog at home, they ended up throwing the goalpost in the river.
Yeah, they did beat Alabama. Unfortunately for Vandy, Texas is coming off a pretty bad loss, their first loss of the season. I do think they might not be the best team in the country, but I think they're better than Vandy. I think they're good enough.
Are they 19 points better? Take the points.
I mean, I wouldn't take the points or give them. I would stay away. But if you want to do it, I don't know.
I'm taking the points in both those games. Let's talk about another game.
That one I don't know about.
In the SEC.
Let's go.
Probably the biggest game in the SEC. Pick number 8, LSU going against number 14, Texas A&M. At Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a blackout.
Yeah.
Texas A&M wearing all black. LSU wearing all white.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, I heard them say that they're asking the audience, the crowd the fans to wear black too. But just on the surface, if they were playing at a neutral site, which one of those teams is a better team?
Neutral site, I'll go LSU.
Let me ask you this. Which team you think has a better shot at making it to the college playoff?
I would say that would also be LSU, not being that familiar with the rest of their schedule.
Tell me Texas A&M weakness. Where are they weak at?
Quarterback. I think Connor Weigman played incredibly well a couple of times, but he played very poorly last week and very poorly to open the season against Notre Dame. I just don't trust them at quarterback.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we mentioned LSU's. You mentioned their schedule. LSU still have Alabama home, at Florida, Vandy at home, and Oklahoma.
So they have Alabama. I agree.
And Vandy.
Okay.
And Vandy. Okay.
Okay.
They
have Alabama. I'll repeat. They have Alabama.
Okay. What, 2.5 points? Texas A&M is giving.
Yeah, they are.
And you think, that on a neutral site, you think LSU is better. At home, with Texas A&M being at home, are they 2.5 points better?
Let me ask you a question, Dad. Who is the best quarterback in the SEC?
I'm going to have to go with Mississippi.
Oh,
Miss.
Jackson Dart is the best quarterback in the SEC?
Oh, no.
Jalen Milroe?
No,
Quin Ewers?
LSU, the guy from LSU.
Okay, Garrett
LSU.
Nussmeier.
Yeah.
I agree. I am taking LSU to cover those 2.5 points and win the game.
Okay. Yeah, I do agree he's the best quarterback in the SEC.
Yep. And I think, other than that, the teams are equal. Honestly, Harold Perkins has not been playing the last 4 games.
No,
and LSU has looked so much better on defense without him. He does not fit. The fact of the matter is, the position that he has to play that best helps LSU is not the position that he could play in the NFL because of his lack of size. So they're playing him out of position, and he has been struggling this year. And now with him out, their defense has been a lot better. I think if you if you remove the quarterbacks from both of these teams, LSU and Texas A&M are comparable. When you factor in the quarterback play as well, give me LSU in Kyle Field at Texas A&M to win by a touchdown or at least.
This is my only thought. Man, That's a hard place to play. Notre Dame went there and won.
They did, and
That's a hard place to play.
for lesser quarterbacks, I totally agree.
I think. Boy, that's a tough game. You know what? I would stay away from that game.
That's funny because that's the game of any game I would pick. That's the one I'm most confident in. Put all your money on LSU. Thank me later.
And I'm taking the points in the other two games. But I will say this. I tell you, JJ, I cannot bet against A&M at home, man.
I mean, no, I understand that. I mean,
Let me ask you this.
they have the reputation of having like the best, one of the best, if not the best, home field advantage.
And some say the best.
But they've gone like 2 games over 500 in the SEC play since joining the conference. So I don't know.
I don't know. Before I leave, one question I'm going to ask you before we go to the Big Ten. Coaching. Who has the better coach?
LSU or Texas A&M? Mm-hmm. I don't know enough about Mike Elko. He's been a head coach for 1.5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna go with LSU. I mean, Brian Kelly has a lot more in his dossier. He has a lot more of a resume to. I mean, the Heisman Trophy winner last year, he coached them. One of the leading candidates for the Heisman Trophy and the first quarterback drafted this year. He's coaching them right now.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go with LSU. But you know what? Don't sleep on Mike Elko. Though.
You would have to go with LSU right now.
Yeah.
Elko may become better, but right now you would have to go. Let's say enough of the South. Let's head to the Midwest.
Yeah, why not? It's still a little warm up here.
Let's do the Big Ten.
Let's go to the Big Ten.
Do some games.
And the Big Ten is not just the Midwest anymore. It's everywhere you want to be.
East,
It
West.
might as well be. It might as well be American Express. Anyway,
Speaking of that,
speaking of it,
let's talk about a West Coast team coming to Bloomington this week.
Indiana.
Washington will be going to Indiana, and we said this earlier. Indiana right now 7-0, Washington 4-3. Indiana's without their quarterback, and yet and still, JJ, they are a 25.5-point favorite. Does that make any sense at all? And in what world does that make sense?
I mean, it makes sense if you've been watching Indiana. It's a home game. They've been playing like a wagon. Even after their quarterback went down and Traven Jackson had to come in, they didn't really miss a beat. I think that, they don't lack for confidence. You heard what the coach said?
What did he say?
He was like, wherever I go, I win. Google me.
Hey, they say if it's facts, it's not bragging if it's true.
And he went to James Madison last year, got him ranked for the first time in program history. Came to Indiana, took a whole bunch of players specifically from the defense with him, and they have been dominating ever since. Vegas believes in Indiana. I would stay away. That's a lot of points.
I'd take the points in the day.
I would stay away.
I would take the point.
Yeah?
Guess where game day is going to be at this coming Saturday, JJ?
Where's game they going to be?
Bloomington.
Good for Bloomington.
Indiana's on the map, 7-0. They already, they're not playing to get to a bowl game. They're playing to win the Big Ten and get a bye the first week of the college playoff.
I told you, Indiana has one game, and you were so quick to say that they were going to lose at Ohio State. I said they probably would, but I especially if Curtis Work can come back for that game, by that game, do not sleep on Indiana.
Well, that's next to the last game of the season, November 23rd, Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's a month away from today.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of time left before that.
But they're going to start
in the meantime,
a second-year quarterback will be starting against Washington, and they're giving away 25.5 points. I can't do it. And JJ, usually, October 23rd, when you start talking about Indiana, you're not talking football. What you talking?
Mark, you're talking Midnight Madness.
You're talking basketball. Why are we sitting here talking football about Indiana?
Because they're a 26-point favorite almost. You haven't said enough about Washington to make me. Anytime you take a team that is more than a 3-touchdown underdog, you have to like the team more so than just say it's a lot of points. I haven't heard anything about.
They beat Michigan earlier this year.
They did beat Michigan.
No, that's about it.
Okay.
But
Congratulations.
I'm still taking those points. Speaking of Michigan, JJ, before we get out of here, let's talk about the best game in the Big Ten this weekend. Michigan State going to Ann Arbor to play Michigan. Both teams, JJ, are 4-3.
Yeah.
Who's the better team?
The better team. I think the better team.
Wait a minute. If you need some help, you can just look at my shirt and get just a small idea.
I think the better team is Michigan. But I think that's only true when they play the right quarterback. I think the fact of the matter is the best way for them to win is to play Alex Orji, no matter what the wide receivers think, no matter what Tron Moore might think for his job safety or development. But I don't think they're going to play Alex Orji, so I do think Michigan State, a 3.5 point underdog, I think that they could at least keep it within 3.
Michigan State upset Iowa last week. Guess
Cade McNamara looked worse than any quarterback Michigan had.
Guess how many times Michigan punted in that game? And they were Michigan State punted in that game. And they were going against a team that's known for their defense. Guess how many times they punted in that game?
Probably not that many, but what's more impressive to me is how many interceptions did Aiden Childs throw?
Only one.
Yeah, that was a lot.
And he threw for 256 yards
and a touchdown,
and only one interception.
Yeah,
Michigan State is on a roll. They got better receivers. They got a better quarterback. Michigan's defense is weak against the pass. I don't care what they got Johnson over there. Michigan's defense is weak against the pass.
And is Michigan State's offense good at a good passing offense?
Aiden Childs, one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm. Is Michigan State's offense a good passing offense?
Yes, they are. They had 2 receivers with over 100 yards last year.
Last game.
Last game. Yeah,
yes.
2 receivers.
They did in that game.
They had Nick Marsh,
He had
who was a freshman, who's a stud.
He is someone that Michigan has to account for. And depending on Will Johnson's status.
Is he injured? I hadn't heard.
Yeah, he was a little banged up, but if he is healthy, he'll erase Nick Marsh, obviously.
Well, who's gonna stop? Who's gonna erase Foster?
It doesn't matter. But the thing about Nick Marsh is the only person that really Michigan I think has to worry about when it comes to the receiver. But I do think if they play the wrong quarterback, Michigan State does cover.
I will say this: you're still young, my son.
No, I'm not. Tell my back that. Tell my knees and my back that I'm still young.
You're still young.
Please, someone tell that.
I'm telling you, Michigan is a 4-point favorite. Man, Vegas. I don't know what Vegas been on, man, but that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Michigan State's the better team.
I don't know about that, but I do think that Michigan State should be like a 3-point. I mean, more than the field goal seems like a lot.
I just got a couple of things to say. Michigan has no answer at quarterback.
Yeah, they do. If they play Alex Orji, then that means Michigan State has to spy him. That opens up the running lanes for the running backs. They do have an answer at quarterback. I mean, they don't have the answer in the passing game. I'll grant you that, but they do have an answer at quarterback, I think.
Well, they played Tuttle last time.
They did.
He was 20 out of 32 for over 200 yards. That's the best quarterback performance they've had this year in a losing effort last week against Illinois.
Yeah, and all of those passing yards were basically in garbage time. They looked horrible. I mean, at the end of the day,
This is the question I have before we get out of here. Will Michigan State run the score up because they want revenge from those last 2 lopsided losses they had against Michigan the previous 2 years?
I will say, if Michigan doesn't beat Michigan State in this game, you will hear a lot more. You will hear a lot more fans vocal about. I think Tron Moore. Michigan does need to beat Michigan State this game.
I say Michigan State runs the score up. JJ, I'm done.
All right.
Can we get out of here?
Yeah, let's get out of here.
WPS beat Mississippi State this Saturday.
Who they? Who gonna beat them Bengals?
We out of here.
Nobody.
All right.